We thought this photo of His Imperial Majesty was rather interesting, since we're touching on Ethiopic Genesis in this new sabbatical year of Torah Orit studies. We thought this picture of His Imperial Majesty standing with Sir Winston Churchill and raising his right hand. We thought that this picture was very, very interesting when considering the ancient mythos. When we look into the ancient mythos, we find a connection with the one named AMSU, HORUS, or AMSU Heruy, according to the Ethiopic etymology of Horus or Heruy out of ancient Egypt. And it's just very interesting because this connects with the true interpretation of biblical prophecies concerning some very important verses within the Tinbit, or within what's known as the prophecies. Because here, if we look at His Imperial Majesty, this is the part in the scripture where Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, Nabiyu Isaiah, he asks, "Who hath believed or admitted that which we have heard, and to whom hath the arm of the Lord, or Yahweh, been revealed?" To none, we reply, save to those who know the God, the Elohim, who lifted up the arm in death, who bare the holy arm in retribution, and who wrought salvation with it for the oppressed, or as Adonai Rastafari say, the downpressed, who suffered from the adversaries in Amenta. Horus AMSU, Heruy AMSU, is the God of the Elohim who uplifts the arm of Ausar, or Osiris the Lord, which he has freed from the swathings of the mummy as he rises from the tomb. The buried Osiris represented the God in matter, the earthly half of the divinity, so to say, earth being termed his body and heaven his soul. Hence, he is imaged by one arm, one leg, one side. Hence, also the typical right and left arms. Osiris, or Ausar, buried in Khem, is represented with the left arm still bound and powerless. Horus, or the Ethiopic Heruy, in his resurrection is the right arm that was lifted when he had burst the bonds of death and got the better of Sut, or Shet, as conqueror of the Mekaber, or the grave, and manifester in phenomena, both natural and eschatological, for the Father in Amenta, the Father of eternity, or the eternal Father that we call and know as the Abba, the forefather, he whose Son was manifester by periodic repetition in the sphere of time. The type of support and stability on which all rested in Tatu is said to be the arm or shoulder of Horus in Khem, according to the ritual 18, whose figure with the fan or coup in his right hand will show us how the government, the Mengist, was on his shoulder. The abstract language of the so-called Jewish writings, which we know as the Hebrew writings, takes the place of the earlier concrete representation and the Egyptian symbol, which were figures of the facts that this limit and ultimately fade away in words. AMSU Horus, who rises from the grave in Amenta with his right arm freed from the mummy swath, is designated the, quote, lifter of the arm. And in this connection, we may compare a Fijian burial custom. So we just going to segue for a moment. This is from Gerald Macy, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World. I think it's page, 532. He says, when a hero or distinguished brave, quote, brave, end quote, as we say in Ethiopia, Jegna, right, a brave or Gobez, is buried, the body is interred with the right arm lifted up above the mound of the grave mound. The people passing by on seeing this, the right arm lifted above the mound of the grave, they exclaim, "Oh, the hand that was the slayer of men," end quote, according to Lorimer Fisson, quote, Notes on Fijian Burial Customs. Now, this all connects with Abba Qdus and the half of the story concerning His Majesty, as well as the biblical prophecy. Actually, that was page 531. Now we're on page 532. So that was Lorimer, a little quote on the Fijian burial customs from Lorimer Fisson, F-I-S-O-N, Journal of Anthropological Institute. But just a little bit more on this, because this particular picture of His Imperial Majesty coming out of this meeting with Winston Churchill and raising his right arm. Now, some folks will try to say, oh, this is like Masonic, so forth and so on. But before it was Masonic, it was biblical. The natural fact was first rendered in sign language, and before it was biblical, it was Kamite, and therefore it was Ethiopic. The natural fact was first rendered in sign language, and this supplied the type of the mythical or eschatological phase. The Fijian custom show the figure straight from nature of the arm lifter as the conqueror in life, thus imaged memorially in death. AMSU Horus is the lifter of his right arm as the victor over death. Now, the connection with this particular picture in His Imperial Majesty raising his right arm is significant, because many had wrote off His Imperial Majesty Qedamawi HAILE SELLASSIE after the Italian invasion and after the exile. They were saying it was all done for the Abyssinian Negus, the Ethiopian King of Kings, so forth and so on. And they basically wrote him off. Even ones like Marcus Messiah Garvey had already wrote off the King of Kings because they didn't recognize the truth of the ancient prophecy or the mythology out of Kemet. So AMSU Horus is the lift of his right arm as the victor over death. And this is what Abba Qdus demonstrates to us. So even in the interview, as Imperial Majesty said that I am mortal, when overstood in the mythos, we can understand why he said, I am mortal. I'm a man. I will be replaced by the oncoming generation. I and I are, or is, that oncoming generation. Such a custom is by no means ghastly, like to say ghostly, like a horror movie, when interpreted by the Kamite or Egyptian wisdom, the Hokmah or the Tibet, but a mode of honoring the brave spirit, which in AMSU Horus is exhibited as triumphant over death and all the ills of mortality, as the arm of the Lord, the arm of Yahweh, the arm of Adonai, the conqueror of his father's enemies, triumphant over death and the grave. It was AMSU Horus who, quote, hath showed strength with his arm, end quote, for he was wrenched, and he has wrenched and raised it from the leaden grasp of the burial place and the bondage of the mummy, holding aloft the sign of rule and government as the express image of potency personified. This is an interpretation of this picture of His Imperial Majesty. Hamsu or AMSU personates the, quote, arm of the Lord, end quote, outstretched from the mummy of matter. He is called the arm raiser, and through his potency, the other arm bound up in the mummy case is set free, and the Osiris or Ausar emerges pure spirit with both arms intact and both feet in motion. Quote, "Behold," says the prophet, "behold, the Lord God, Adonai Yahweh, will come as a mighty one, and his arm shall rule for him," according to Isaiah 49 and 10.